Hey everyone, welcome to this video or podcast, depending on how you're choosing to watch or listen to this. So if you're watching this on YouTube and want an audio-only version, there is a link in the description below for the actual podcast. And if you're listening via podcast, be sure to check out my YouTube channel called Anthony's Animation Talk for some more goodies, including the Looney Tunes commentary project. So, for this episode, I thought I'd just do something a little more casual. In fact, I didn't even plan to do this but I thought I've got some time. I thought this would actually be kind of fun, so why not? But, given that 2020 is not the best year for everyone, including me, sure, some good things happen, but also a lot of bad things happen. So, it's been all over the place. I just want to try and do something a little bit more positive. And I just want to go through some of the animated films I've seen in 2020. And now I haven't seen everything. Like one notable one that comes to mind at least is Scoob. And I think that's kind of because I was watching all the Scooby-Doo Where Are You episodes on Blu-ray. So, I couldn't really be bothered watching this movie, but I will probably watch it in early 2021 anyway, just to give it a bit of a go. But if there is a film that I don't mention in this list, definitely let me know, because I definitely want to see as many things as I possibly can. And also, this is going to be kind of an unscripted affair. I just want to, I've got my list in front of me, and I just want to go through how I felt about these and give it my bit of a ranking. And I'll also try and go in order of release, but keep in mind, release dates can differ in Australia, and there are some films that I watch a little later than others, due to, life and other things. And in fact, some of them, it would have come to cinema in Australia, but for whatever reason, it's not playing near me, or whatever the case may be, and then I'll discover it later when it comes on Netflix, which, to be honest, streaming is probably my preferred way of seeing things these days. It's cheaper, and I can push pause if I have to go to the toilet, so it's definitely convenient there. But I do like the cinema experience, but I'm finding myself less and less inclined to actually go. So here is my 2020 animated films in review. So definitely let me know what you guys think once I go through them. So first up, Spies in Disguise. So I saw this one earlier this year. I know it's kind of maybe a 2019 movie, but again, release dates, it's sort of on the cusp. So, but anyway, I saw it in 2020, and my kids wanted to go out. And this is pre-pandemic. This is when the very idea of what happened later on was not exactly something that everyone could foresee coming, at least as bad as it ended up getting. But it was the summer school holidays, and we wanted to see a film, and Spies in Disguise was there. And I gotta say, for what it is, it's quite a fun little film. I mean, Will Smith, I happen to enjoy his acting. I mean, even in his some of his terrible films, he's usually a highlight. I just enjoy the guy's work, and it's one of those films that you're not gonna put on the same pedestal as say something that coming out of Pixar, but not everything has to. Sometimes you just want to go in, you just want to be entertained, you just want to watch a film and go and just lose some time. Hour and a half, hour 40 minutes, whatever Spies in Disguise was. I forgot the running time there. That's a good thing about doing this on the fly. But anyway, but it's a solid film. It actually featured one thing that I noticed a lot of films don't really do much these days, and that's like an opening title sequence. Similar to what the James Bond films would have, and even what films used to have. And these days, especially with Marvel films, the credits are always in the back, and the credits usually look pretty cool. But in this case, this is like a proper animated opening, and you can see all the celebrities involved and all that, and I thought that was pretty cool. And look, the film's not perfect. I did feel that the last battle went on for that little bit too long, but I laughed. I thought the villain was pretty cool. I especially love the villain's design. The vocal delivery from the voice actors in this was pretty solid in my view. And what's really not to like about it? I couldn't think of anything. So that one I could give about a 7 out of 10, maybe even 7.5. You know, it's solid, maybe not, you know, the greatest thing I've ever seen per se, but it's still pretty darn good. So yeah, definitely check it out if you haven't already. And in fact, it's on Disney Plus where I am, so I would imagine it'd be probably in the US as well, but definitely double check. But if you can see it, definitely go for it. But what the next one is definitely on Disney Plus. There's no question there, and that's Onward. And you know, one day I should probably do a ranking of all the Pixar films, especially now that I've also seen Soul, which I'll get to later on. And this one would be probably mid to lower tier, maybe more towards the mid part, and it's mainly due to the solid final act. See, the first 2 acts were fine. I thought it was, you know, pretty okay. You had these, you know, 2 brothers. They go on a quest to try and get their dad to come back after they try and bring him back to life for the one day, but the spell, they stuffed it up, and so you just have the legs, and so they go on this quest to, of course, try and get him back. And, you know, I love the world in this. I gotta say, I love the idea that it's like, you know, the old the old sword and sorcery fantasy type world with unicorns and pixies and all sorts of stuff in this modern type world. I thought it was pretty cool. I love the design of it and whatnot. But it was just okay. Like, it kind of felt like other films that would be sort of like what maybe DreamWorks might do, like in the 2010s at least, or maybe even Illumination at some points, but it didn't quite click for me until the final act, where there was all the emotion, and then, yeah, I don't really want to spoil anything, but for me, the final act was what made the movie for me. In fact, I probably enjoy this movie more now that I watched. It's also on Disney Plus, where they have different episodes of the different directors and personnel at Pixar, and they tell their story. And one of them is the director of Onward, and what inspired him, and that he never met his dad, and he only knew his dad from a tape recording, and you know, it's nice. It's nice. So look, I would give. See, at the time, I gave it 8 out of 10. Watching it a second time, maybe 7.5 now. But, you know, I think it's solid. You know, I think even ordinary Pixar is still better than some of the best works from other studios, at least in my opinion there. So, but it'll be interesting to maybe do a ranking, but this will be probably mid-low or something on there. You know, not the greatest, but not the worst, which we all know is Cars 2, of course. Alrighty, so next one is Trolls World Tour. So, when I saw the first Trolls movie, I will say I love the design of it. It's amazing looking. You know, the backgrounds and the characters, it's really cool. And even the singing was pretty good. You know, I'm not big on jukebox musicals per se. There are exceptions, but that one's definitely one of the ones I'm not too interested in. But I thought that the script was really weak. It just, I don't know, and felt like that the meaning of that first movie was that if you're not happy unless you're happy all the time. I don't know, it didn't click for me. Like, just because someone's serious all the time doesn't mean like it's a bad thing. So I don't know, there was something about it that was just a bit off-putting. It just didn't quite work out, at least. You know, that's what I think. I mean, if I'm missing the point, yeah, let me know. But that's what I got out of it. But I mean, my daughter loves the film. You know, she's watched it a few times, and you know, in the further times I watched it, I didn't really change my view on it. So yeah, there is that. But the sequel, I gotta say, it's really interesting. It's a lot different. You know, it's no masterpiece. You know, I still give it about a 7 out of 10. But I mean, the visuals are outstanding. But the script, it was definitely a lot more solid. It was far more enjoyable, and you know, and admittedly, it's been a while since I've seen it. I only saw it the one time, and for some reason, my daughter hasn't really revisited Trolls. Probably a good thing for me, to be honest. But you know, I love the idea that they visit all these different worlds with the different types of music, you know. I mean, you know, even the hip-hop rap world, you know, I don't particularly enjoy rap and hip-hop that much, but even that was just amazing how they did it. So it was, I just like the fact that they didn't just repeat the first movie. They actually went above and beyond and did something, you know, something really, really out there. And, you know, and there was also a twist in there, which I kind of saw they would have gone for, but it wasn't necessarily a bad twist. I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't seen it. So, yeah, if you haven't seen the sequel, even if you hated the first one, I actually do recommend the second one. But then again, if you don't like jukebox musicals at all, then maybe the second one's not for you either. But I didn't mind the jukebox element of this one either, but it was definitely much better script this time around. So yeah, definitely recommended. So next one, The Willoughbys. So that's on Netflix, and that one, wow, it's like Roald Dahl came back to life and wrote another film. It's just, it's one of those films that I sat back and watched and went, wow, okay. I mean, there's a lot of it that doesn't particularly make sense, but then again, a lot of things that, you know, even Roald Dahl did that don't even make sense, like, you know, Charlie and Chocolate Factory and all that. But, you know, I quite like it. I mean, what prevents it from being more than, say, 8 out of 10 is it was still not something that I would maybe revisit again for a while. I've seen it twice, though. Once with the kids, you know, around the time when it first came out, and then a few months later. And I found that watching a second time, it kind of lost a little bit of its luster, but it's still quite solid. And, you know, I love the narrator, Cat character in it that comes to mind, and just, you know, the voice acting and just the overall. I think it's just the look of the film. I mean, the script is pretty solid, but the look of it really appealed to me. And, you know, when you see a lot of stuff coming out of Hollywood, a lot of it looks almost the same-ish. I mean, each studio seems to have its own little design style that they tend to follow from film to film to film. But this one just seemed a bit like its own thing. You know, it's like they put a lot of thought into making this look like the film that it is. And, you know, there's a lot of nice little twists and turns that happen throughout the film, and I quite enjoyed it. So, yeah, if you have Netflix, or, you know, someone who will lend you a password, I suppose, definitely check out The Willoughbys. Yeah, definitely recommend it. Now, the next one actually came out in 2019, but I didn't realize it came out in 2019 in Australia. I mean, apparently it did come in the cinemas, but I don't know, kind of missed it. So anyway, it came onto Netflix eventually, and that's Missing Link. So that's the stop motion film featuring Hugh Jackman and among others. And, you know, this is some of the best stop motion I've ever seen. It is absolutely incredible how they did it. And I guess the script was really good, but the only thing I remember about it was that I was probably more interested in the animation versus the story itself. I mean, it's granted it was a pretty strong story, but I don't know if it's a film that is more about me noticing how it looks versus me being invested in the whole thing. It's, you know, there are issues with that, but, you know, I could definitely think of a worse way to pass the time. But I mean, the vocal performances are great. I mean, as I mentioned, the animation is great, and, you know, I actually like the first act probably the best out of it. I did think it did waver a bit in the third act. It didn't quite, you know, stick the landing as what's been said. But, you know, again, if you haven't seen it, definitely give it a look. Now, the next one was a little bit of a disappointment. It's also on Netflix. It's Animal Crackers. Now, granted, yes, this film, I believe, is actually a few years old, but it didn't actually make its proper premiere on Netflix until this year. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong there. I probably am. Yeah, this one had a lot of potential, but ultimately, it just didn't quite work for me. Like, and the biggest problem was how it was edited, and it didn't quite gel as a whole. Like there were some different parts of it that were pretty good, but it wasn't focused. Like the story is about basically animal crackers you would eat and you would turn into an animal, and hilarity ensues, right? But there wasn't really much focus on that, I felt. I don't know, but look, there are some genuinely good things about it. There is some nice animation in it. There's some great voice acting. Sylvester Stallone actually has an interesting cameo in it, which was quite nice touch, I thought. And the director as well. If definitely follow him on Twitter. I mean, even if you watch the film and don't like it, go check him out, because his art is just amazing. Just the way he draws, just wow, couldn't believe it. And he's actually a very nice guy. He actually saw the tweet I did when I said it was a very uneven film and definitely needed better editing and that. And he was definitely good about it. We had a bit of chat about it. So yeah, definitely props to him. And but look, I'd say give it a look. But ultimately, Animal Crackers, 6 out of 10. Sorry, I can't. I had no real desire to see it again, but at least the kids were entertained, so there is that. So, next one, the SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run. So this one, I think there would be issues with being released. Like, where I am, it was on Netflix, but in the US it's not, or something, so a lot of people may not have even seen this yet. So this one's like a CG take on SpongeBob. Now, confession, I do like SpongeBob, and I've seen some episodes, but I've never watched it in depth, as some people may actually thought, that I might. Maybe I will one day. Maybe I will watch them all in a row. Because from the ones I've seen, I quite enjoy it. With that said, look, I liked it for what it is. I mean, it starts off really well. Goes on this strange detour in like a live action sort of section. I don't really want to spoil anything, but the trailers do show part of this, so I'm not really spoiling it. And then the final act, it seemed like they were trying to springboard this other SpongeBob spin-off, I believe, like when they were little kids. So it seemed like a backdoor pilot of sorts, which I felt was a bit distracting. But watching this one, I can admire the animation, I can laugh at some of the gags, but ultimately it was kind of forgettable. I mean, I still prefer the first SpongeBob movie, which I think is excellent. I still think it's excellent, but this one, not as much. The next one, look, this one's a bit interesting, because it's My Hero Academia, Heroes Rising. Recently, I've been trying to get into some different animes that I may have missed over time, and one of them actually is My Hero Academia. And weirdly enough, as I've been watching season 3, the anime streaming service that's here in Australia, and I think New Zealand as well, they actually said, okay, for this weekend only, we're showing this movie as part of it. Like, you don't have to pay extra, give it a look. And I thought, oh, okay, should I watch it, even though it might spoil something? But no, it was great. Like, it takes place, I think, after the end of season 4, so it kind of goes in front. But you know what, I can live with that. But it's an entertaining film. It's quite good. If you've seen the show, you'll no doubt enjoy the movie. But if you haven't seen the show, then you'll be probably watching this all lost. You will have no idea what's happening. But it's definitely a film that I strongly recommend to fans of the anime. And if you haven't seen the anime, yeah, definitely see it. It sucked me right in. It really did. And I'll probably do maybe even a podcast of my thoughts on it so far once I finish the 4th season. So yeah. So the final 2, I saw one after another, and boy, after the year that was 2020, you know what, having these 2 films definitely helped things out. So the first one is Soul, which was supposed to be released in cinema. It was delayed twice, I believe, and then they just decided, we'll just put it on Disney Plus. And I'm still surprised that they didn't do the thing they did with Milan, where, with Premier Access to gain a bit more cash. Because just on a slight bit of tangent here, they experimented that with Mulan, but I never felt that Mulan was ever going to be as big of a draw to pay that $30 extra. I don't know. I thought it was really weird. But if they did that with Soul, you can imagine, I would bet that they would have made so much money if they did it. So, or maybe they just wanted to give everyone a Christmas present. I mean, I'm not complaining. I don't want to pay an extra $30 if I don't have to. I was just surprised that they didn't actually do that. So, Soul, I see it as an experience more than a movie, and you know, I was basically sucked right in. I actually bought a sound bar recently with the subwoofer and Dolby Atmos and all that stuff. I thought it was time to actually get a proper sound system, and that was the first film I thought, nah, the first thing I'm going to see is Soul, because you know what, you got to hear that beautiful jazz score coming out from the speakers, and yeah, it didn't disappoint. You know, putting aside, you know, the the sound bar thing, the film was just so entertaining. And I don't really want to say too much, because I think going in blind definitely helps. And the trailers actually don't really give that much away, except, look, yes, he dies and becomes a soul. But I'm not really spoiling it, because that's like in the first, I think 10-15 minutes or something. So, but yeah, definitely going blind, definitely see it. So now, the reason I say it, you enjoy it more for the experience than the movie, because if you really look into it, if you nitpick bits and pieces, yeah, there are definitely a lot of logic fails in it, and it's not the first time there's been logic fails in a Pete Docter film, like in the movie Up. My biggest thing is, no, not the house being lifted by balloons. I go with that. It's a bit of fun. It's more like, how does the old man just set everything up over the course of one night when he's barely able to move? But anyway, that's another issue entirely. But in this one, those logic gaps, they're hidden well enough so you don't have to actually so you can still enjoy the film, and it doesn't leap out at you like it did with me over when I watched Up. That gets a 9 out of 10 for me. I guess if those logic holes weren't there, it'd be probably 10 out of 10. But hey, 9 out of 10 is still pretty good, and I can't wait to buy it on disc, because I will buy it. Not just because I have to own every Pixar film, like I do. Yes, even Cars 2 in 3D. Ooh, but it's still, it's an amazing film, and I definitely look forward to watching it again. I mean, I may watch it again even tonight. Who knows? But I've saved the best for last, because not only is this the best animated film of this year, but it's actually the best film of this year, like, period, for me. And I've seen some great films this year, all things considering with the pandemic and whatnot, and that's Wolfwalkers. Now, it's on Apple TV Plus, which for some people, they take an issue with that. It's like, oh great, another streaming service. Now, I happen to be in the Apple ecosystems anyway, so for me, the Apple TV thing, it's pretty straightforward. Though I can understand that is trickier for some, because they're still trying to release it on certain platforms. But that aside, anyway, that should not mar this masterpiece. It is a real masterpiece. It like, I barely even knew about it. Like, I saw the trailer, but again, just like with Soul, definitely going blind. It's a very simple story, just about there's wolfwalkers. They're protecting a forest, and there's a nearby village. They're looking to cut down this forest to tame the wild lands, sort of thing. And the main character, she's she wants to hunt wolves just like her dad, who've come from England over to Ireland. And she discovers the wolfwalkers, and I don't want to say any more than that, because it's just amazing. If you're a video game player, if you've played Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, there is actually some similarities to certain bits in it, and even in terms of special effects and animation and that, it's actually there's a lot of similarities, but it's done so well you just don't care. Like, you see it as maybe they did play, and there's like a little homage to it, but it's not a musical, but there are some songs in it that's just blew me away. It's just, wow. Even my kids, when I sort of showed them a picture, they kind of were like, all right, whatever. But then by the end of it, they said, oh, this is my favorite, Daddy. This is my favorite. So he was just that. Like, it might scare younger kids, but my kids, I think, are the right age, 6 and 7. They can watch that sort of film, because it's not too violent. I mean, there is some fighting and all that. There are some moments where it can be a little scary, but yeah, it's definitely safe enough, at least in my view. But graphically, wow, just this strong graphic style that they use in it. And there are also even like, I don't know if it's intentional, but there's a lot of anime style elements of framing and all that. And it's just, wow. It gets a 10 out of 10 for me. And for me, for anything to get 10 out of 10, it has to be more or less, perfect, quote unquote, because nothing's ever really truly perfect. You might watch this and go, yeah, it's an 8 out of 10. But for me, it just ticked all the boxes, and it also had what I like to call the X factor. And for me to give something 10 out of 10, it just had to have that one little thing that I may or may not necessarily know of when I'm watching it. If that makes sense. I know it sounds a bit strange, but yeah, that's why, it's 10 out of 10. It's absolutely amazing. Now, so those are the ones I've seen, and look, and that's obviously not everything released this year. And I also even checked out some things that I had missed prior, but I didn't want this episode to go on for too long. I wanted it to be roughly half an hour. And this also doesn't include the really awesome TV shows that were released, like, the Looney Tunes cartoons, the final season of Clone Wars and Close Enough. That was fantastic as well. Though Midnight Gospel was awful. I'm in the minority, I know, but it's actually been a long time since I switched off any show after only 15 minutes because it was that bad, at least in my opinion. But anyway, look, opinions are opinions. If you enjoy it, fantastic. And admittedly, I think it looks good, but no, it was a real mess in my view. But yeah, look, let me know what I've missed. If it's, it can be from Hollywood, from Japan, Europe, whatever. Let me know. I'll check it out. Even if it's something that's horrific, maybe me and my good friend Fox can do a little riff on the bad stuff, which I think will be pretty cool. And, also let me know if you enjoyed this more casual podcast, if you want to see these sort of videos and podcast episodes amongst the other stuff that I do, that sort of thing. So, yeah, look, thanks very much for listening in, and yeah, have a safe and happy 2021. I mean, it certainly couldn't be any worse than 2020. So, yeah, thanks for listening and watching, guys. And until next time, see ya.